This week's tip is about a will versus a trust. Hi, it's me, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers with love, laughter, and lessons learned. Do I need a will or do I need a trust? Attorney Sean Scott is here to talk about that today.
So one of the best questions that I get asked a lot and very common from my clients is should I have a will or should I have a trust? And that's a great question. It all comes down to what's the most cost-effective solution for you. The big problem with a will oftentimes is that it has to go through the probate process. After the person dies, that will is submitted to the court. You have to use a lawyer to do all this. You have to jump through a bunch of different hoops, and the cost of going through that process can be a lot. Basically, I like to say that I'm the problem here. I, as the lawyer, am going to come in order to go through that probate process. I charge the client about 3% of the value of their assets that are going through probate. That can get really expensive the more assets that you have. At some point in time, you might want to look to or for an alternative. That alternative is a trust. A trust avoids the probate process. Better to pay me once early on in order to put a trust in place than to maybe pay me on the back end through the probate process. So here's the deal. What do you need? A will or a trust? Should everybody have a trust? The answer is no. It's not a panacea. It's not something that needs to be done for every client. It really does come down to how much assets you have. The more money you have, the more reasons you have to have a trust. The less money you have, the more a will is an appropriate solution. But here again is the deal. If you have more than $100,000 in assets, you should strongly consider using a trust. If you're below $100,000, a will is more than likely going to be the more cost-effective solution for you and your family. Again, why? It all comes down to paying to solve this problem. If you go through a will with $100,000 and a probate, your approximate fee for doing that would be around $3,000, 3% of the value of your stuff. If you had a $200,000 estate, that would be $6,000 because 3% of $200,000. A will can be very expensive. A trust, though, it's the one-time cost that you pay to put the trust in place. So regardless of the amount of assets that you have, it only costs you that same amount to go through the process of moving them to your heirs. So will versus a trust, not a simple answer, but needs to have something. Look at the amount of assets. The more assets you have, the more likely you should have a trust. The less amount of assets you have, the more likely you should have a will.
Thanks, Sean. I hope this clears up matters for a lot of people that are listening to this. Tune in for another tip next week, and have a delicious day.